Hello, everyone. My name is Conrad. On behalf of Camera Stuff, thank you again for joining. In the Limelight, today we are going to interview photographer Michael Alexander. Hello, Michael. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, funny you, man. Thanks for having me.
It's a big pleasure, yeah. So we have our challenges here. You're still busy with load shedding, so you have the generator going on at the moment. But Josh, that's just the challenges, but we're going to make it work tonight.
Yeah.
So for everybody joining, if you have just popped in, so we're going to wait for a crowd to build. But in the meantime, if you are watching, please do introduce yourself. Tell me where you're from so we know who's watching. So hello, Dave. Good evening to you too.
How's it, Dave?
All right. So yeah, we have a good crowd building as we speak. All right, so tonight we're going to talk to Michael, obviously, but we're going to talk about his photography, his YouTube channel. He's doing tutorials and such. He's writing a blog. I'm going to talk about that, but also pertaining to his personal career as well. So I have a bunch of questions to ask him, but you, as part of the crowd as well, you're welcome to ask your questions. Just pop that into the comment section, and we'll tackle them as we go along. All right, so I think, Michael, we are going to start.
Cool.
So first question I want to ask you. What inspired you to become a photographer, and how did you get your start in the field?
Yeah, so it's actually, I never was inspired to be a photographer. So I used to study to be a pilot, and then after that did motorcycle tours. And we did a big tour, myself and my dad. And throughout the thing, it was a very cool experience. But the only memories we have of it is some of the cell phone images and some of the stuff that we have in our head. We had a bit of a GoPro setup. But yeah, so we bought a camera after that because we wanted to document that. And I got a free course. And I found out this was quite fun. And from the tech, I got a very technical mind. I like fiddling with stuff. And I found the intricacies of photography and, problem solving and all that. So it just tickled my fancy. And I kind of fell into this by pursuing other things.
It's quite interesting. Many people that I've spoken to kind of start off as one thing, but it leads into photography, and then photography just kind of takes over.
Exactly. Haven't done a trip, bought the camera, haven't done another trip.
Yeah, so you having a technical mind. On topic with that, I'm just going to show the crowd what you're capable of. I'm going to talk about these images as we go along. So this is what Michael is capable of. Very creative images using a variety of different techniques. So doing light painting, using the optical snoot, gels, obviously. And as far as I can tell, also a mix between constant lights and flashes as well. So we're going to ask questions pertaining to your gear and techniques all in a while.
Yeah.
All right, but in the meantime, just going to, try and get into you for the time being. All right. So hello, Matthew. We'll have to remedy that.
That's my dad.
I don't know what that... okay. Hello, Matthew. How are you doing? Thank you for joining.
He's talking about the motorcycle tours.
Okay. All right. So what would you say is your photographic style, and how has it evolved over time?
I don't know. I hear a lot of people saying it's fine art or editorial and stuff like that. But I would say if I had to pick one, it probably would be editorial. I think fine art has just been diluted into so many different genres that I don't think it actually has a meaning anymore. I would say editorial because I do focus a lot more on stuff that is magazines and editorial style work, and my images I want to be able to have into magazines, and I've had images make it into magazines. But if I had to say creative, I love experimenting, and I think that is also it's a plus, but it's also a negative. Because I don't build a general style that I can, I think, for instance, I look at some photographers' Instagrams and I think to myself, wow, I love your feed because it's so consistent. There's definitely, I can feel that this is your style. And mine feels like it's just this mess of, this is this here and that there. And it's, so I think, creative and constantly evolving with the new gear that comes out and new techniques that I learn over time.
I think that's certainly an advantage. But as you said, looking at people with their consistency, kind of builds a brand, a style over time that people can recognize. But I'm in the same boat as you, wanting to experiment with a little this and a little bit of that. I just want to combine a lot of different techniques, and it's just a creative mind that never ceases to rest. Do you think there's an advantage to that? You know, as we said, you know, it's good to build that brand and style, but, you know, always wanting to be at the forefront of, you know, new technologies and using new techniques. How has that helped you out in your career?
I do think it's a definite advantage. I think in brand building it might be a bit difficult, but it also depends on what your brand is. I mean, it helps definitely in the ability of problem solving if you've got a broader understanding of what's going on. I think my best understanding is with lighting. I do experiment a lot of lighting as people start noticing in my work. And that allows me to get a bunch of different genres, but then it also allows me to think of problem solving different when I come up with different problems at a actual job. So I've had a couple of instances where it was, for instance, load shedding being like a problem, or stuff like that, where you have to kind of come up with a solution if you don't have something that can combat that, or you forget a battery for a certain light, or you don't have the cable, you don't have this, or you don't have that. You're able to think on the fly, being able to use maybe constant light, flash, or even natural light. And me being experimenting with everything, I think, has definitely helped me in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Unfortunately, I'm hearing the crackling from your mic again. Just from Michael's side, he is running the generator, so it may be causing some fluctuating voltages and whatnot. So it's just switching on and off. So if you do hear crackling from your side, now talking to the audience, just point that out in the comments and we'll get on it pronto.
Is that better?
That is a lot better, yes. All right, so in terms of all of this new techniques and being creative, it's also a different challenge in wanting all of the gear. So what is your current setup like? And you also have that burning desire to try out all the new things.
I think, yeah. So my current setup is basically the entire camera stuff store. I think I got about the same amount of equipment as what you guys have on display. I definitely suffer from gas. I buy so much. But I think if I had to say my main setup, and people, if they want to have a look, I do have a link on my Instagram to that on my website, is I do mainly use a 3-light setup, 2 8200s and an 8600. I want to evolve that, but I found that has been a very good, consistent, for instance, a moneymaker setup, and it could cover a lot of jobs. I would say I use an 85 octo, but I have recently moved up to a 105. I wouldn't say it's an octo. It falls under the octo brand, but it's from high-low. It's a big circular modifier with a grid. I'm a big fan of that. The one thing is the umbrella rod's a bit short, so every now and then it's a bit of a task to set up. and then strip boxes. I think they are one of my most staple modifiers. I think they until you need them, you don't get them. But like when you get them, you realize you've always needed them. I've spoken to a lot of photographers about that, and a lot of photographers have converted over to a strip box. And then on the opposite side, you'll see I use the TL60s a lot. I've fallen in love with those lights. I have a 4-pack. They almost a set and forget light for me by now, and I really do enjoy them.
Yeah, in terms of the strip boxes, never leave home without it. Incredibly useful light modifiers.
Yeah, and for people out there that are struggling in small spaces, like small studios, and they look at a lot of photographers creating these amazing pieces of work, and that's just the understanding of lighting and in general. I don't have the biggest space, but a strip box of a grid allows me to utilize that space to the best ability without having a lot of spill, and that's also why it's just one of my all-time favorite modifiers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So we have Dave chipping in yet again. There isn't a challenge Michael isn't up to. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Having a look at your portfolio, there's a great mix of different styles and techniques, and I think it's a good path to be on. And also the creative chaos, I think that's an excellent way of describing it. So within that chaos, so many brand new things are conceived.
Yeah.
And also love my strip boxes I got from Camera Stuff. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, so you mentioned the TL60s. So those being RGB tube lights, specifically LED lights. So how was your shift going from flashes to constant lights? And do you think that is an advisable move? And do you think, well, personally, I think it is maybe the way of the future, because cameras are getting better at utilizing low light. So at ISO 800, 1600, these comparatively speaking, weaker constant lights are not very usable. So what's your experience using constant lights?
It was definitely a shift, but I found when I actually shifted, I actually enjoyed it, because I think for a long time I was a flash purist, and there's definitely instances where flashes are going to be still overpowering constant light. But for the biggest advantage, I think, continuous light is if you don't understand the language of light, or the physics behind it. I think having stuff like constant light, you will definitely find it a lot easier to work with, being able to see the light where it falls and then adjust for it accordingly. I don't really have an issue too much about the cameras controlling low light. I think ISO is part of the aesthetic of an image. I think too many people have now hunted for low ISO, and we've gotten this weird genre of digital sharpness. Photography has lost its canvas in some. It's almost become digitally rendered.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Never thought about that, but ISO does definitely add that aesthetic, as you said, in terms of balancing the photo. So if you use flashes exclusively, it looks a bit too contrasty, a little bit too artificial, as you said. So it's a good avenue to explore the constant lights. Plus, in addition to that, the RGB lights. So if you do what you do, the creative colors and whatnot, most RGB lights have that RGB cycle mode. So you can just cycle through the colors, and you can experiment with different colored combinations on a day, as opposed to using the gels and gaffer tape, sticking that into the soft boxes and whatnot.
Yeah, but like also what a lot of people don't get is like color is only represented in shadows. So the brighter an object is, the less color it has. It's just on the color spectrum. So if it's not dark enough, you're not going to see any color if you're looking at RGB. That is also why RGB lights, or continuous RGB lights, have much weaker power output, and that you'll find if you're putting it on on, for instance, a normal white balance, it will be a much more powerful light than it is on a color setting.
Yeah, plus I think color is a good method of learning light as well, because you can see exactly what each light is doing. So if you have an orange light from one side, a blue light from the other side, working strictly with white light, you don't always get a full impression as to which light is doing, but definitely with color, it's a good learning method, and you can apply that to your white light photography as well.
Yeah, I definitely would recommend it. It's a great way of just isolating and seeing what different modifiers are capable of, and different light setups. I think for a large time there was the dominant set the light up from the front, almost Paramount style lighting, and just let it flash and skin smooth, and that was the style. I think lighting is becoming very evolved, and I think the dirtier the light's getting is becoming actually better. It's not a clean, well lit image anymore. It's a image that's telling a story.
Yeah, it's a bit more, how can I put it? It's a bit more representative of a natural environment, because your lights are not always perfectly set up in the quote unquote real world, and so it just gives a bit more character, a bit more realness. And I think that's a good term as well, the quote unquote dirty lights. It's not always this precise surgical lighting.
Yes, and it's I think because you do get a lot of those when you post on photography groups. It's like, no, I don't like the shadow of the nose, or which is a loop light, which is it's an actual lighting term, but they don't like it because they're looking for that Paramount beauty light sculpture. And I think it's just I think that was it's a very good way of, but it's not the only way of lighting. I think it's just it became the norm for so long.
All right, so I'm getting the crackling again. Cool. So as you solve that, I'm just going to pop up the next question. So if you're watching, we have a nice crowd going. So if you have your own questions to ask, as a reminder, please do drop them in the comment section. So we're broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook, and we've added Twitch now as well. So building nice crowds, spreading our feelers as we do this. All right, so my question. How do you stay current with photographic trends and techniques, and what resources do you use to continue learning and growing in your craft?
So I think I can answer this question, and I think in a sense of how to learn how to do photography is I stay current with YouTube. A lot of people use YouTube as a study tool, which I don't think is actually correct. I think YouTube should, up to a certain point, you can learn from it, but then it should be an inspirational thing. And mainly, there's a lot to be learned in what has been forgotten. There's a lot of old school lighting that was used way back when, which was very, good lights that were uncontrolled. They were, big flash bulbs, big tungsten lights on set, and they just made it work, and they made this beautiful works of art. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that. That's currently what I'm exploring at the moment. It's a little bit more of the older aesthetics in my lighting styles. But I do try to stay current because I like experimenting with gear. New gear always allows you to do new tricks. So I'm currently working. There's actually, I have the light behind me. It's it's a flash, but it's an LED. So it has the continuous light capability, but they've figured out how to enable an overpowered setting on this LED diode to push out about the same power as the 8200 does.
Impressive.
Yeah, and it comes in a very small package. I can show it, and it's a little battery pack.
All right.
Yeah, and this is just it's called a hybrid Fresnel, and it's like this, and it syncs up to all my Godox gear, and it's been fun to play with because I always say the best lighting equipment is the one that you want to take with you,
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and that's nice and tiny, so I get a lot of use out of it, and it's got a very nice small footprint. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned the way of the future, and I think what you just showed us is definitely that, the hybrid LED and flash. It's something that can provide a powerful instant burst, so you get your fast flash speed with it as well, so if you want to freeze motion with it, but also the convenience of having the LED in terms of, guiding your light, what we call the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. Yeah, so I think in future we're going to have a combination between all of these different lighting technologies. So I think it's a good step forward.
Definitely. All right. It has been nice being able to, and I'll explain it more in some of the images that we'll see, being able to see the light before it flashes.
All right. Yeah. So I think, speaking of which, let's pop that slideshow on. So I have other questions to ask, but
cool.
We can do that a little bit later. But let's get into the images. So we'll start off with slide 1. So what I'm going to ask Michael to do is just to give us an explanation, a bit of a briefing as to how he created these shots. So Michael, the floor is yours.
Okay. So I'm going to start this off by saying, if you actually wanted to see how this rain thing has happened, I do have it on my YouTube channel.
Sure.
But I've got 2 versions of it where you can actually see me build the rain machine itself as well. But so this light, I wanted, again, and it's about the physics of light. I wanted the drops to be represented in the image, and it being already, this was shot in midday, so it already being bright. The only way you will see water drops if there's light behind. So if you notice on the edges of her arms, her legs, and her abs, there's a big specular light. So those are just 2 reflector dishes with 8200s cranked to max, firing off there, and that will allow you, because the light will start casting through the water droplets and showing them in the image. So that will allow me to see the image and also give us a nice rim light on the model. So, and then there's the third light up from the front that's busy getting wet, with the octo box, as I said, the 8600 BM flashing, I think, at about 16th of a power. And like I said, the whole idea about this is I was trying to add more motion to light, because a lot of the fitness genre lights are like stuff are very staged and stuff like that. So I wanted to get a little bit more, something more unique. And yeah, this was a lot of fun to make and very difficult to communicate poses in this scenario, because there's a lot of, rumbling noises happening. But yeah.
All right. So you mentioned that you have the BTS, the video on your YouTube. So speaking of which, let me just get that on screen.
I hope you don't get demonetized.
Yeah, I'm going to try and switch the music off. So it's not going to be fun listening to, obviously not having the sound, but just to give you all our audience,
the music's not the
just
problem.
An indication. Okay, gosh, okay. I'm just going to scan through this little bit by little bit. But yeah, just to give the audience a bit of an indication. Well, firstly, you do have a YouTube channel, so people can visit that. So I popped the URL in the comment section, so for people to visit. So if you want a better idea as to how these images were created, just go to the YouTube channel.
And if you have any questions about it, please feel free to ask. Like I can only tell you from a technical aspect of how I achieved the shot. But if there's something more that you are seeing that I don't know, I always tell photographers that I teach is like there's nuances, that there's creature habits that we've built up as photographers over time that we don't even realize that we are doing. And you might notice it and go, yeah, no, but that's a bit irregular. So if you have a question about it, feel free to ask, that I'll be able to answer it for you.
Do you have an example of that? One of your creature features?
My creature, the creature habits. Like I said, it's a bit difficult to come up with it on the spot because it's something that I'm not really aware of. I have a specific style of posing that I like to do, especially with portraits, and I like a like very direct on, very confrontational style photo. And somebody pointed out with me, it's the Michael look, because I also like it if you put your hand on your chin just to create some dynamic, but also play with your lip. And that was like something that I didn't realize that I would have in every shoot. So
okay, interesting.
Yeah. Also, I think it's maybe in a creature habit is I work the light from the back to the front. You know, maybe a lot of people try and light up the scene and then they add the accents. I try to get the accents correct and then light up the scene last, because the accents will be the hottest spot. So I'll try to make sure I can remedy that or get the right look out of that first. So the first image of the shot, you could only see water droplets and a bit of a silhouette of this that I took. Yeah.
All right. Just from your side, the mic is crackling and popping again. Well, as you do that, I'm popping up a question from Dave. As an event photographer, I have 2 Godox T860s. What other light would you guys suggest to put in the bag?
I'm a big fan of the 8200s. Honestly, I've used them at many weddings, actually, which a lot of people don't know I do as well. I love the 8200s. The perfect form.
Got one myself here.
Perfect form-fitting light. I think you're going to get a lot about it, because I think also it comes up with so many cool accessories. And if you put the light dome on it, like what I do, I put it in my back pocket so I don't have to carry it around, because what's nice about flash is it lives on the top of the camera. So I put it in my back pocket and I'll just turn sideways. Sorry,
it just broke up a little bit.
Oh, so what I was saying is, like, I put the 8200 in my back pocket and then I will just turn sideways and take the photo. So I'll flash it from my butt.
Okay, I have never heard of that. I'm gonna have some questions about this. So you can call it your butt light then.
Yeah, it works wonderfully. It literally has the same results as an on-camera flash, but it's a little bit off to the side, so you're not getting that flat on light.
All right, so I'm trying to picture that in my head. So every time you want to, take a photo, you switch your body, turn your body a little bit to get the flash image. Okay, that's interesting. I like that.
I didn't want to carry around a light stand and would hold it, so or have an assistant. So I needed to figure out what I'm going to do with it.
Okay, you have to give that a patent. You have to give that your own unique name, the Alexander lighting or something. So I've never seen that.
Oh well, it's funny.
Do you have it on a photo or in one of your videos?
No, I do not. I'll make sure that somebody takes a photo next time. I'll pull it off.
Okay, now please do. Yeah. All right. So next photo. This is quite interesting to me. So, how did you get for colors in the shot?
Okay, so a little backstory on this. This image itself took 3 years to figure out.
All right. Okay, good.
Yeah. So myself and a friend actually we saw this on Pinterest. We got some inspiration somewhere else, and we tried to figure out how to do it. And back then, we didn't have stuff like the projection mounts when we tried this. So I'm a MacGyvered one. I created one for myself, or something that is very, very similar to it, which is basic, very simple. It's just getting a lens to fit onto something that will fit onto your flash, and that's about it. So, and I think I'll find the behind the scenes for this and I'll post it in the camera stuff group. There are 2 Perspex molds, like pieces of Perspex that we have in front of the light, which was very difficult to achieve because also continuous light wasn't really big back then. So it was very difficult to get the sharpness of that edge correct. So we had them on C-stands just in a certain shape and different distances, because they're roughly about the same size, which is about like an A4 size, and different distances so we can get that hard edge. And I do have another one on my Instagram of this, which is a little bit softer. But I really like this one because of the shape of the cheekbone that you see with the blue light. It shapes the face quite nicely. It doesn't have that clean red going over, but I kind of like it, the fact that it doesn't. So yeah, that's how I achieved that.
Yeah, if it was a little bit too clean, it may have looked a little bit too artificial. So this looks like something that was part of the environment. I quite like it. So do you still have that contraption?
I do. I do.
Can I use it in future again? Because I do like this style.
The thing is, I can do this now with the normal Godox one, the projection mount. I can do this with a lot more ease. The reason I haven't used that thing in a while is because the last time I used it, and I'll reference the photo on my Instagram. It's a blue one with it's an image of a girl in like with a blue teal look with a red line crossing through the eyes. And the way we got that was also we didn't have a gobo, so I needed to make one. It was out of cardboard, and when I looked again, the thing was on fire.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, it's often the case with these do-it-yourself projects. I don't know if it's gonna catch fire or not, or create a bit of a fire hazard. But it's interesting. The first time I've heard about a do-it-yourself optical snoot.
Yeah, it's like I got inspiration for the things out there that was like already existed, but I needed to figure out how to get it over here, and yeah, it's just basically a lens.
So if you want more behind-the-scenes shots, go to Michael's website or YouTube channel. So everything is there for you to look at. So just to tell the newcomers, if you have just joined us, that is in the comment section. So the URLs. So after the live, you can go to his website and to his YouTube, and make sure to subscribe and follow Michael as well.
Yeah, and also message me. Feel free. I'm always on for answering questions.
Perfect. Okay, so again, I suspect optical snoot you used here.
Actually, no. So this one's So this one actually is like I was saying. I was looking at the older style of lighting from a little bit more of an editorial look, but a little bit old school Hollywood glam. And this one is actually done with a modifier called a Fresnel, which I have here in my hand. And that was the staple modifier back in the day. They didn't have anything else. And ironically, I think that the second modifier that came after this was actually the beauty dish. I could be wrong, but I feel like it is because they were solving a problem from the Fresnel back in the day. So it's a Fresnel from the front that I was using. As you can see on the nose, and I'm pointing with my mouse as if somebody can see my mouse, but if you can see on the nose, you got a little bit of light underneath it. So it's about a 30-degree offset from the face to the top to get what's called a paramount light or butterfly light under the nose, which is a very common look back in Paramount Studios. And then on the side, you'll see the two edge lights, which is two TL60s on either side, set to about a 4500 Kelvin. And in the background is another continuous light that's just wackily powerful. I love that thing. That is just giving a little bit of a glow in the background.
All right, nice. So microphone snap, crackle, and popping again. All right, so just explain in your own words what a Fresnel head is. So you showed us what it looks like. Just a brief description as to what it does.
Okay, I'm back. It does weird things when I try and change the mic. So, okay, just to actually add, there's a little bit of a kick light coming here from below just to light up a leg because it was very dark. So I just saw that and remembered. So a Fresnel, the characteristics of Fresnel, it's a glass. It's a glass modifier. So what you're getting is a light going straight through a glass. So that's why you kind of think it looks like a projection mount, which but a Fresnel was actually invented for peering light through mist on shore bays, like from a lighthouse. That was actually its main intention, and then it moved into Hollywood to light up stage and stuff like that. But the characteristics of a Fresnel, firstly, is the ridges. The ridges focus and defocus light. So you get the light focused to the center, which creates a really lovely ball, and then it defocuses outwards, creating a bit of a softer look. Now you can control it if you get like not specifically this one. This one is a fixed Fresnel, but you have Fresnels out there that you can actually control the density of the light ball by screwing it, by like focusing and defocusing it, but it's not really that way. It just creates the difference between the width of the spread. I think you guys have one now currently at Camera Stuff when I was looking at it. So it's a very new thing. If somebody's very interested in old school lighting, I definitely highly recommend picking one of them up. And you'd also mainly use them, or most often use them, if you're trying to get that ball of light at the back, which I also have a Fresnel on at the back behind it. That's where you see a lot of in the editorial style. You'll see that ball of light. That's normally a Fresnel or a fluter, which is just a Fresnel on like steroids.
You say fluter.
Fluter, yeah, like FLR.
That's a good name. Yeah, so we do have those Fresnel heads, quite the big ones, so often used on stage productions and whatnot to create that focusable beam of light and also to add intensity to the light as well. So I didn't know that it stemmed from lighthouses, but that makes a lot of sense. You know, to create that beam of light as opposed to a big blanket of light.
Yeah, and they built the beauty dish to combat what the Fresnel does, because they didn't want that beam of light, that hot spot in the center. So that's why the beauty dish was invented, which is actually not its original name.
Okay, go on.
Oh, cliffhanger, cool. Yeah, so it's actually just called like a soft reflector. That was its initial name. It was just they just designed it to combat a hot spot. I'm not sure where beauty dish comes from. I think it's just because, you know, what the modifier was used for so long. But it wasn't initially called beauty dish. It was called, and that's, I will stand under correction if somebody does know something else. But from my research from way back when, it was called a soft reflector.
All right. Now, so it's in between hard light and soft light. So it makes sense to call it a soft reflector.
Yes.
All right. Interesting. I'm learning as well. So let's pop on to the next image.
This is a projection mount that
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So explain to us in your words what that is.
So again, I drew some inspiration from advertising, and I wanted something that really would just focus on her face, but create this a bit of a, I think maybe a sci-fi look. I don't know if I wanted to go with sci-fi, but it ended up there. And this is about at a 15-degree angle, as you can see, and a little bit off to the side at about, again, as well 15. As you can see on the nose, like the shadow on the nose, it's not too pronounced, so it's a bit flat. Honestly, I think looking back at it, I would have shot it a little bit more dead center, but like higher up. But yeah, like restrictions and like space and all of that, you kind of just work, and it came out very close to what I wanted it to, and almost better in some ways because it's my own image. And there's again TL60s that you'll see, the tube lights that is creating the color around the background. And yeah, that's what I would say is that, like, the long and the short of this thing. I really wanted to create this very triangular shape on the face, but not a sharp one. So I defocused it. That's why it rolls off a little bit softer.
All right. Yeah. So the optical snoot is a light modifier that allows you to cast a projection, a focusable projection as well. So with the aid of gobos, you can create certain shapes as well. So depending on what shape the gobo is. So be it a triangle or a slit or Venetian blinds or foliage, whatever it may be. Yeah, Camera Stuff, we have like 40 different gobos. Did you use a gobo here?
No. So I used the blinds or the curtains. It comes with the set. And I shaped them in a triangle because, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think you guys have a triangle-shaped gobo. I might be wrong.
Yeah, good point, Joe. Yeah, so for that, you're going to need to use those little curtains, those little flags.
Yeah. So that's how I made it. So, but yeah, the modifier is very nice because you can control the sharpness of the shadows and the edges. You can, and if with aid of the little iris modifier that comes with it, or the iris slide that controls the size and the width of the beam. So I also used that there to control a little bit of the spill, because I have the 85mm lens, so it is a bit of a wider spread. It's not as focused. So I use that to pull down the size of the shape as well.
All right, perfect. Yeah, creative stuff. Okay, give us the lowdown on this one.
Okay, so this is natural light.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, snap, crackle, and popping again.
Cool.
Sorry, if you've just joined us, yeah, it's the generator running in the background, which may be causing some voltage issues with our microphone. So it's going to snap, crackle, and pop every now and then.
There we go.
All right, natural light, interesting. Tell us more.
No, so this is again was done with the optical snoot, and as we mentioned, done with a gobo, which is a the gobo actually is of 3 windows with like a diamond style pattern in it, so it's a little bit like an old school shape of a window. And I just kind of tilted it off to the side and beamed it across the face. I wanted to make sure that one eye was like not in shadow, and another eye was, and getting the pattern to fit nicely across the face. I've got another one where it kind of like cuts through the center. Not as fond of that one because I really love how she lifted her neck up in the shot. It made her neck look very nice and slim. And what I also was trying to do in a funny enough, again, the TL60s come back into play. They're brightening up the background. But I've got another one hitting her shoulder here because I don't want the shape to be this big, very pronounced one. I wanted it to have a bit of a fall off on the corner and have a little bit of an edge light on her cheekbone. So because I don't want it to be this like harsh projection that it almost looks like it got photoshopped.
Yeah, some good positioning of that gobo. A couple of things I want to point out. That shadow underneath the jawline just accentuates the jawline, so that there's good angling there, and also the rim light, that accent light around the jawline. It just helps to shape the face. It's a lot better. So it's good positioning of the lights. So did you use? Sorry, didn't quite catch that. So the main light, that was also a constant light.
It was also a constant light. It was actually the other version of this, which is a CLX 10. It's about a 10,000 watt light. Or 10,000 lumens light. So it's quite powerful, which is quite nice because then I can get a very clean image like this that almost looks like I used flash.
I was about to say 10,000 watt light.
Sorry. Yeah.
So it's very creative work with the gobo. So if you didn't catch that, the gobo is something that you place within the optical snoot. So you can call it a light stencil. So it's just something that will cast a projection onto the model or subject. And so we have a variety of those gobos available, so you can be quite creative with it, as Michael has been showing us.
So like
just the point.
Best,
sorry.
No, I was just going to explain the best way to.
Okay, you go ahead.
The best way to explain what a gobo is, it is it's a light interfering modifier that comes between the light and the modifier itself. It's the way to block out light between that and the projection mount, so it will create a shape. If you actually had to put this in front of a light with or in front of the modifier, you won't get the same shape. You have to interfere the light coming into the projection mount first. Otherwise, it won't work.
So gobo stands for go between optics. So it goes in between the two lenses of the optical snoot. So the point I wanted to make with the continuous light is that it's nice to use with the optical snoot because you can see where all of that light and shadows are going. With the flash, it's kind of have to take a photo to see where everything is going. So it's very convenient to use the constant light here.
Yeah, well, this one at least, and some of the other photos, I used this one with the gobo mount or the optical snoot because this one can actually have project the light continuously, and then you can when you click the button, it will flash. So it will keep the LED on, and you can mount and direct it in the way you want. And then when you take a photo, you got the power of a flash.
I tried the optical snoot with flashes before, and it's plenty of hit and miss because you don't always know where the shape itself is going.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the couple of previous shots with the blue and red one. That was a hit and miss one. Got 3 images out of like almost 100 that were actually usable.
Yeah, sounds familiar. All right. Okay, so light painting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorites. There's very fond memories. So this one was done actually during COVID 2020. We were lucky enough to have back then permits to be able to carry on working because we were working on other media-based projects. So, and then I actually recently, around about that time, moved into this space. And Christine's a friend of mine. She actually cuts my hair. And I got her to come by, and I've shot her before. and I really wanted to test out this light. So to come back to a little bit of inspiration, I do draw some inspiration from other photographers, and this is very much inspired by Jake Higgs. And it's like his style stuff. So I wanted to figure out how he did it. So this is light painting for sure, with a very slow shutter and a flash to freeze, and then a flash coming from the bottom to do some color gels. And then these are 2 light ones that I built that create these style of wispy, smoky effects that I have. And I've used it a few times since then. It's one of my favorite ones to play with. It's just one of the big tricks about it is because when you do light painting, you don't actually know where the light is actually going to be. So it takes you a couple of tries to get the light in the right spots when you're busy painting. So it's a lot of fun. It's a good laugh. I think I've got a bit of a behind the scenes video on it as well. Not on my YouTube, but on my Instagram somewhere maybe. And it's just a lot of fun of just like somebody, wisping this light around in front of her, and she's just trying to keep dead still, even though there's no light in the room. The moment the flash goes off, it's back to darkness.
Yeah, it has to be dark because of the slow shutter.
Yeah, but you do want to keep her as still as possible in the sense of like, because you are still light painting, so there are light being emitted within the room, and it could catch her maybe, and you'll see a little bit of ghosting. It's normally not too rough if you've got your settings dialed in. This was done at with 10 seconds of exposure to get this, because we were doing 2 colors at the same time, the pink and the blue.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Who was doing the light painting? Waving the wands about? Because that's a fun exercise.
A friend of mine. He because lockdown was very lonely, so we were all like, before it happened, we were like, dude, do you want to stay here so that we can just at least have conversations, that we're all not confined to one place. So
sorry to interrupt you. The crackling is getting bad now.
Yep. Here again.
Yep, perfect.
So yeah, he moved in for a little bit in that period of time. So he was assisting me with my shenanigans, and I was teaching him photography on the side. And today he's actually working as a full-time photographer, which is awesome.
What's his name?
Andrew Bueta.
Ah, okay. All right, so the waving of that about, so that's also a hit and miss in itself. So how many shots did it take you to get, the wispiness in the right areas?
I think we shot 3 different looks. I got 2 out of the set, and I think it was about, because you're working with a slow shutter, I think at around about 8 different shots were taken, because you're shooting with a slow shutter, so you're not going crazy, and you're constantly learning where it is. So we kind of in the first couple of mapped out exactly where her body was in the frame. So we were like, cool, don't go higher than here, don't go, and we kind of mapped that out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's good advice. If you're going to do light painting, you kind of need to create that frame, that perimeter, knowing where to work in.
Yes. So
all right. So to reiterate, so this was flash, asking Christine the model to stand very still. So that is the exposure shot. Also a flash from the bottom up. What modifier did you use for the purple?
That was just a normal silver umbrella with
with
a dish, and a gel.
Okay, so you're also probably accustomed to using a lot of duct tape and whatnot to get the gel perfectly around the light bulb.
Gaffer tape is the photographer's best friend.
I can't remember who said it. What's the market of a professional photographer? That's when you start using gaffer tape.
Yeah. And honestly, if you guys don't have it yet, you should sell your Nifty 50 and buy that rather. It's going to serve you much better.
Yeah, we started getting the gaffer tape in. Yeah, so camera stuff you can get that in various roles as well. All right, so to continue with the shot, so the room had to be pitch black because of the slow shutter. So did you have to close curtains and whatnot?
So we actually, the room is actually right here in front of me. So if I can explain it to people, it's a very narrow room. It's very narrow. And the walls were pure white. So it didn't matter. We tested the shot a couple of times before we actually did the photo. Every time the flash went off, there was too much light spill because the room at white. So my studio is actually black with a white roof.
Okay.
And it actually, back then we couldn't get, any supplies to really do anything, but it has 2 big skylights right above, like where she was standing.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Plot thickens.
So the plot thickens. So I think there's a photo somewhere that somebody can go find. But I have, because my family's paramedics, I have so many space blankets, and I tape space blankets to the roof to make sure that the light doesn't leak in, you know. And it's not closed with wood. It's done professionally. It's well painted. It looks nice. But that's how we did it. I mean, like if somebody wants to look at it the way it looked, I think it's on my other Instagram, and it's called like MA Photo Studios, and it's I do share a little bit more of just anything there, not just photos. So if somebody wants to see that horrific studio setup, but yeah, keep in mind that was COVID. We just moved in here. Yeah, like
it's fond memories of that lockdown. I also had to shoot in my living room, and it was just chaos there. I grew a fondness of equipment that is easy to pack away and easy to fold open and close down. It's one thing working in a big studio where you can just pop things in a corner, but if you're limited with space, it's a different challenge in itself. So we have this comment here again from Dave: necessity breeds ingenuity. I think that's a hallmark of your work, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, so another comment here, Jason Trunisha Mutsami. If I'm a fitness photographer and I've learned so much from Michael Alexander photography. Big ups, brother.
Thanks, man. Yeah, he actually asked me, and I'm working on it still, to do a photo on posing, which I think is one of the biggest Achilles heel and a very big thing slept on by a lot of photographers. But there's no info out there. We can learn how to take a good photo, but we can't learn how to communicate with your client. And I definitely want to make more videos in regards to that.
Go on.
Yeah.
So it's a big challenge to photographers. So what would you say is the top advice? So as a photographer, you're struggling with posing. What's one thing that you need to adopt in your armory to be better at posing?
I think a big thing, and it's this, is I can say it because I'm one of them. I'm very introverted by nature, but I've had to learn to become a little bit more extroverted. And I think also we put too much pressure on ourselves to be the professional. And the thing is, but we need to realize the client or the model doesn't know different. They don't know when we're messing up or trying to figure something out. So we try to rush through things, and then we go into a safe setup. I'm very guilty of that myself from time to time. And the biggest advice I can tell you to posing is you need to learn how to pose yourself. So yeah, and this will just make everybody laugh if they feel like it. So I'll be literally in the shower and then think of something. I'd be like, cool, this pose will work. And I'd be like, cool, I need to work out this pose. And I'll go to I'll get dressed, and I'll go to the mirror and I'll work out the pose and I'll work out the lines. So the thing is also is remembering emotion and shape. And feminine shapes are S curves and anything soft and round. So if you look at the basics of shapes, so you'll find yourself as a male photographer posing yourself a lot in S shapes, and for guys it's a lot more square and angular. And the best thing I can say to anybody is be very willing to just talk to your model and mess around and play around. If you tell her to do this pose or that thing that you might have in your head and it's bad, who cares? You don't have to pick that image, but you can start learning through time what works.
All right, microphone crackling again. So as you're fixing that, we have this comment from Dave. Dave has been quite active in the comments. Thank you, Dave. Every photographer should develop empathy. That's a very good word, empathy for their subjects. So even if it requires posing yourself in the shower every now and then.
Yeah. I mean,
I think, it's a good start. Certainly trying out the poses yourself, as silly as that may sound, you get that, that intuition when it comes to certain poses, what feels natural, what feels odd, etc., etc.
Bring Dave into this. Dave said to me one day, it's like, if you ever want to understand how a model feels, is you need to start taking photos of yourself or get photos taken of yourself.
Interesting point.
Yeah. And
have you done that?
Dave's taken photos of me, yes. And
all right. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. And Dave is wonderful at the self-portrait thing. I suck at it.
All right, so just to reiterate, to learn posing, empathy, good, and also, giving yourself opportunities to stand in front of a camera as well. All right, yeah, good. Let's carry on, shall we? All right, so explain the shot. So, question I want to ask immediately, straight off the bat, that reflection, what was that?
Piece of black perspex.
Cool. All right. So perspex, was it perspex on black or was it black perspex? Sorry, just to confirm.
Black perspex. Yeah, it was pure black perspex. So also something to note about perspex, and it was a good point of asking if it was perspex on black or black, is you can have either or, but if you have something that has a little bit of transparency, no matter how hard you try, the transparency will show through. So you need something that is directly reflective. I think the best reflective material out there is polished aluminum, actually, not even a mirror. Polished aluminum is a lot more reflective, but I wanted this pure black aesthetic in the shot. I have a couple of gripes personally with this shot, but I was working with the tools that I had. Gripe number one is you'll see the backdrop kind of comes over the edge and it cuts off her toes and her finger and stuff like that. I couldn't avoid that, but because back then I was still using PVA backdrop, the double-sided black and white vinyl thing. And it has a PVC, yeah, sorry. Okay. And it has a acrylic rod inside of it that creates this lump.
Okay.
And if you get down very low, because it's double-sided, it will have a white edge. I had to kind of fold it. This was the best result I could that I got with many iterations of this. Image is still good, but I definitely want to retake this specific shot now with obviously a black seamless paper backdrop.
Now, just another point to bring up: if you're going to use transparent perspex, if you're going to lay that down on black vinyl or paper, the transparent perspex may create a double reflection.
Yes.
So it's not always noticeable, but if you zoom in, you're going to get the top layer or the top part of the perspex creating a reflection at the bottom of it, depending on how thick the perspex is in the first place. But that's the kind of the problem when you're using clear perspex laid out on white paper or black paper. It's going to create a bit of a double reflection. Now, so it's a good move here using the black perspex. And also another comment from Dave. Dave, thank you so much. I love how Michael uses practical effects over resorting to Photoshop. So I want to ask a question about that. How dependent are you on Photoshop, if at all? And if you can manage on the day itself, are you keen on doing practical things? I think it's obviously the case, but what's your opinion there?
I'm very dependent on my ability to do practical effects. I use Photoshop to get the image the rest of the way. I can show a lot of people before and after of a lot of images, and it's a very much cleaning up hair, maybe a little bit of liquefying, just getting some, mostly on, again, just a little bit, maybe they're getting the hip a little bit in, or on the hair, getting the hair a little bit more full body. I'm not good at Photoshop in the sense I can do it, but I'm not a person that wants to sit hours behind a computer, getting a result that I know personally I can get in camera. So yeah, I don't use a lot of Photoshop. My literal workflow is a little bit of like healing tool, frequency separation, dodging burning, color, skin color grading, and liquefying and sharpening, and I'm done.
Yeah, so I've heard an interesting comment from someone. The point of Photoshop is to take an A photo and convert it into an A+ photo. So you can't have the bad photo, and you can do that, but it's going to be very time consuming. My idol, his name was Graphic Arts. He said if it takes him longer to smoke a cigarette to edit a photo, then it's not a good photo.
I think that is a really good, I'm going to have that written on my wall.
Something to put on a t-shirt, right?
Yeah. And ironically, I'm an ambassador for a photo editing website, like for a photo editing company, and it's ironic, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the Photoshop is still required, to apply the finishing touches, and you have, good techniques over bad techniques. So yeah, to definitely champion the good techniques in regards to skins, retouching, especially because the best way to do it, go around it, as you mentioned, frequency separation. You know, that's quite a thing to learn.
Yeah, and it's honestly, I don't think I can live without it at the moment. So
No, same here. Hello,
yeah.
Kinlan. Thank you for joining. Kinlan, saying awesome images. Well done.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. But yeah, I think, okay, cool. Let me talk, I think, a little bit of the lighting, like of that one, because we spoke a lot about my gripes of it. So
sorry,
there's
microphone crackling again.
Cool.
Hold up. I'm going to send you a private message. Can you see this?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to type to you in future.
Cool, yeah. So there is two strip boxes above her in the shape of a triangle, to get the hit on the leg on the one side and on the other side, and then at the top. So this one has some photoshopping in. There is actually a light stand behind her that is creating that ball of light there. But I didn't have another stand that I could actually use it to maybe shoot down, thinking about it now, looking at the image. But yeah, it's a 3 light setup, 1 in the back, and then 2 just creating this little bit of a, basically a rim coming in from from above. And shot with a wide angle to get this shot. Because when I was shooting with something a little bit more compressed, the reflection looked weird. It was a little bit softer, and I wanted to be a lot more clear. And I could have, most likely most people would actually just copy and duplicate the layer and just flip it upside down. I really wanted to get that in camera. And little backstory: she's a really good friend of mine. She bought brandy. We had a great time shooting. It was just a fun day of just experimenting and stuff like that. I had a wonderful time. Yeah.
All right, awesome. So with the top lights, was that positioned directly above the model or just slightly behind? So how did you...
Slightly behind, because if it was a top, it would have a lot more feathering that you would have seen over the body, and it wouldn't have created... I wanted it an edge, very much an edge.
Yeah, so it's like creating a rim light. So just placed behind the subject just a wee bit, and you can kind of gauge the size, the quote-unquote size of the rim, by how or where you position that backlighting.
Yeah, I think it's about a 10-degree behind them, because any more it would have been a very much softer edge. It needed to be... It was very close to the front, but still behind her, rather.
All right. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Now... So you mentioned Jake Hicks. I think this is very in his wheelhouse, Jake Hicks's wheelhouse. So how did you create these images?
So actually, this was inspired by another photographer called Brett Seeley. Very fond of his work in the fitness industry. And I learned a couple of lighting techniques from him, which I think a lot of photographers shy away from, I think, which is kind of sad. And it's the what's the name, the horror movie lighting, the below lighting. So if you look at her legs, you see that light coming in from below that is slightly a different color, and that's just a tube light. This is obviously done with the TL60s, but I'll mention that because I don't think it could have been done with any color gel. But yeah, TL60s. There's a tube light literally like between her legs. She's standing right above it. That's creating that, which I love because it, and also she loved because it shows off her quads very nicely. And the best way to do that is from lighting below. And then again, a bit of a rim light from the side with those little bit of tealy greens. And then nice cyan hitting from the top as a, I would say, literally head-on style of light, like head-on.
So you mentioned using the continuous lighting. So most likely a big ISO that you used. Can you recall what the ISO was? Because a point I want to make is that it looks very balanced, this image. And in my experience using gels and flashes, the images tend to be quite contrasty. So plenty of, the shadowed areas tend to be quite dark. So here it's quite well balanced. So we have a lot of detail in the underexposed bits. So was that due to the higher ISO, or was it just you balancing the lights perfectly?
I was balancing the lights a lot, but I think I was about 1600. Yeah. I think that's around about what it was. I have shot this all the way to 3200 quite quite comfortably, no issues and stuff like that. Like I said, I think noise is the painter's canvas. You know, a painter's canvas isn't smooth. It has got that texture to it. And same thing with noise. And if I remove the noise, I sometimes add noise in just to give the image a less of a artificial digital feel.
It's the same thing I've adopted in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years as well. Just putting the noise back in. So even if you have that surgical sharp image, just to add that texturing to the image, just adds in the nice little aesthetic.
One of my most famous images that I actually have is a UV light image, and unfortunately, I don't post it a lot on the groups and stuff like that because I'm absolutely terrified about censoring and control. Because she's fully nude in the shot, but full on Lumo body paint. And if anybody wants to see it, it's on my Instagram anyway. And full on body paint, and that was shot on an enormous ISO. Like the digital noise on that thing was astronomical. And here's the funny thing is, people still talk about that image. They still love that image. So I think, a lot of people need to back off a little bit and start thinking about getting the correct shot, because the reason why good photos are good photos because you took it. You were there to be able to take it. If it required high ISO, it's high ISO. It's what it is.
Yeah, I recall that image as part of your feature on Camera Stuff, the Photographer of the Week. That image was posted. It was boosted as well, but Facebook flagged it. Yeah, so we got into a bit of trouble for having that image on our Facebook.
Yeah, ironically, it's not like I have been banned off of Instagram. I lost my Instagram last year, and I've had to rebuild and my entire Facebook. And ironically, it wasn't that image or the full on wet one where she was in it was a wedding photo. I found out it was a wedding photo that got flagged.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if you got my comment crackling a little bit.
I see. Yeah.
All right, so to the last image, then you're going to pop back to questions. As a reminder, if you're still watching, we still got a big crowd. Nice to see. If you have any questions, please do drop them in the comment section. So let's talk about this image.
This is one of my favorites. Really do love this image, and it's very shot similar to the other one with the tube lights with the goal. Again, rim light from the side. These are actually 5 lights. The other one had only 4 in it. Because he had a bit of a for some reason the background was a lot darker in the shot. So I think it's just how I exposed it. So with him having very black hair, sometimes I think my camera lives on at ISO 3200. Yeah. I don't think I shoot on ISO 100 anymore. But yeah, so there's a 5th light just literally licking his hair at the top there, just to create that little bit of edge at the top because his hair was facing into the abyss. Yeah, and then there's on a nice little floor stand pointing up towards his ab, just a little bit of a lower power, a red light just hitting the below point of his ab. So just give it some dimensionality because I found it looked very flat without that. And it's just hitting the below ridges, kind of filling in that shadow, the shadowy area with some color, but a little bit of a less saturated and darker red than the ones on the side.
All right, perfect. Okay, so those are the images. So
yeah.
Again, if you're watching out there in YouTube land or Facebook land and now Twitch land as well, so if you have questions pertaining to these images or just Michael's work in general, please do drop them in the comment section. So we are going to go back to the interview. So I'm going to pop up these questions again. Okay, so how do you approach a new project or shoot, and what steps do you take to ensure that you capture the essence of your subject? So it's kind of 2 questions in there.
Okay. So the first way I approach a new project with overwhelming anxiety. Yeah, like I do get flustered, but I've learned communication is like the top point, and I think it's something that, like in my personal opinion, it's a skill very much lost in a lot of people, and like just from working with some corporate things, it's like they will just tell a photographer, it's like, yeah, but you know what to do. It's like, yeah, but I don't know what you want. You obviously have something in your head, otherwise you wouldn't have come to me. So it's just communicating at first. Like, you need to find the balance. Otherwise, you're going to go there. You're going to be a very over enthusiastic artist creating something absolutely mind blowing. And I believe you would, out of this world. And then you're going to end up, the client's going to say, yeah, but it's not really what we were looking for. Case in point, I'm shooting a couple, and the first brief was sexy. And now the brief, because they're getting married, is a little bit more conservative and they want something for the wedding. Communication. If I didn't communicate it, we would have pitched up. I would have shot a really cool boudoir thing and they would have been very unhappy. And it's not my fault because I wasn't told what to do, you know? So new project, communication, even if it's from your side. I find a lot of photographers don't communicate with a model or communicate with a company directly. They just say, can you come here? We're going to shoot, or can you give me some stuff? I want to shoot it. And it might not align with that brand or that model's, that model might not be comfortable with your idea. So step one with approaching a new project is open communication and find out what your expectations are and their expectations are.
Do you do mood boards, Pinterest stuff, anything of the sort?
Yeah, I would create like a mood board. If they start going, it's like, I'll say like, oh, cool, I've got a couple of things in mind, and it's always difficult to explain what's on your mind. So I'll get some of the reference images close by, similar to what I did with this couple, because I sent in the idea and they were like, cool, it's very risque. And I'm like, that's kind of what their initial brief was. So it's good to get a mood board. It also gets the client excited or the model excited in the idea, because now they're looking at it, they're envisioning themselves in the image. They've already photoshopped their face on that girl or that product's put into that place. So they're very excited for that.
Yeah, I think intuition on a day helps as well. You know, I've often send mood boards out to models and, make sure everybody's on the same page. But on the day, you kind of gauge, what the model's personality may be. You offered a bit of a contrast already, between risque and conservative. You may want to do, quote unquote sexy stuff, but on a day your model may not, it's a bit more on a conservative side. So this is a bit of intuition that needs to step in as well. And also the empathy is a good word, but commenter used earlier on. That also comes from experience. It's not something that can be easily taught, but just over time, you kind of build that intuition, working with a lot of people, knowing which direction to take.
100%. So I would just, I would suggest people is just learn to communicate and stuff like that. Just, again, photographers are naturally very introverted, and I think you just need to learn to be able to talk to people and realize that nobody's going to tell you off. They're trying to find it, just as you, they're trying to find the feet. They're trying to find the direction that you need to go.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting chat for the future if you're willing to discuss that with
us.
100%. Just in terms of posing and communicating, I think that's a topic in itself. So people watching, if you're keen for that video, give us a thumbs up.
100%. I'm down for that. I find talking about how to be a photographer much more interesting than being taking. Sorry, I'm sure I cut out there. Yeah, so I will say is I'd find being a photographer way more interesting. How to be an actual photographer versus good photo.
All right. So I have 2 more questions to ask you. Then cool. I'll probably say good night thereafter. Looking ahead, what are your goals for your photographic career? And how do you plan on achieving them?
I don't know. I right now, I think what I really want to get into a little bit more, I've already focused a lot on business and taking photos. I'd like to get into a little bit of the teaching aspect of that. I've oddly enough, like I would take a nought on any, any exam that has any, like any oral exam, like on school. I would I'm out, give me a nought. I don't want to speak. And I kind of, into photography, I found some confidence in myself. And I want to be able to teach people and stuff like that. And yeah, so what I would love to do is do some more workshops, get some more people on board and teach them how to be a photographer, how to be a profitable photographer, and not just I'll teaching you to take a good photo. I can do that's not too difficult for me to teach you, but I would love for you to be able to pursue this as a full-time career so you can follow your dreams and your passion. That's what I want to do. And currently what we are doing is myself and another photographer from Cape Town, Kim Clayton. we are putting together style shoots for any photographer that's looking to build their portfolio, but build a professional portfolio, set up by people that have got the connections to get the dresses that you're looking for, to get the models, the makeup artists and stuff like that, to be able to, give the photographer the best ability to build a portfolio that they can be proud of and that they can use to monetize themselves and present your client with pride.
All right, yeah, we're quite keen to see how that unfolds. So
yeah,
and so to everybody watching, make sure to follow Michael on his YouTube and on his social media platforms as well to see how everything unfolds in the future. That sounds quite exciting. So in terms of building a portfolio, just to touch on that topic a little bit, just one pointer that you would give out. One important aspect of your portfolio that you would recommend photographers adopting.
Shoot with purpose. I find a lot of like coming from a person that's creative that loves playing around. A lot of my stuff is very targetedly focused on the idea of being high end or high class or expensive looking. And I'm not saying do that, but know where you want to fit into the market. That's where I want to fit into the market. That's where I feel comfortable fitting into the market. So shoot with that in mind and build your portfolio around that. Your portfolio is for the client. It's not for you.
That's a very interesting point, ja. So 5 good images that are specifically targeted towards your client will work better as opposed to 1,000 images randomly spewed out across an Instagram portfolio, as an example.
100%. And that's what I would love to provide people the opportunity to do.
Okay, great stuff. So last question from my side. What advice would you give new photographers?
Advice for new photographers.
It's not going to be run away, is it?
Yeah, don't be a photographer.
So many people have said, like half the people I've interviewed, like run away.
Run away. Yeah, it's definitely a tough industry, and it's a very difficult industry, and it's not saturated. I don't like when people say that. It's not a saturated market. It's an overly misunderstood market. People don't know where they fit in, and they're just creating content for content's sake and hoping somebody sees them. I would say upskill yourself in up to a point where you are competent at taking a photo, and then abandon that and go straight to where you're competent to run a business. First create the product to the best of your ability, and then learn how to sell it. There's many a mediocre photographer that has made more that's made more money than the best artist in the world. The artist will be starving, the businessman will thrive.
All right. So we're going to ask again, one business advice which you'd give out.
One business advice. Okay. Well, one business advice was already create a portfolio that's targeted towards clients. But one business advice, don't rely on social media, rely on people. People purchase from people. You need to start being out there talking to people. I think that is
the best advice. It's the old-fashioned way of doing things, is just get yourself out there and talk to the right people and make sure that you're on everybody's contact list, in the manner of speaking, so you can have a little what's it called, like a little spider web of connections.
But also think of it
in
think of an idea as a party. You're gonna walk into let's say you walk into a party and there's a room, and there's your friend there. You're immediately going to walk to your friend. But if you walk in, if you know nobody there, who are you going to go to? The same thing is like that for a client. If the client already knows you, they're going to go there, and maybe they brought a friend along. Friend comes with. They're not going to go stand with strangers. People hire people. People don't hire personas.
Yeah, they don't hire. What's the word I'm looking for? They don't hire social media portfolios. They just hire the person behind it, personality behind it.
A great thing is Elon Musk. He's probably one of the best things. I think a lot of people buy into his brand because of him, not because.
So I think Tesla doesn't do any marketing budget whatsoever, as far as I recall.
Neither does Rolls-Royce.
Yeah, interesting.
Rolls-Royce only advertises at airports because their clientele can afford a private jet.
Yeah, I've heard that story as well. So yeah, it's good advice pertaining to photographers as well. Like, know your market. I think that's a bit of a challenge initially, but it's something that you'll gravitate towards. And I think personality based as well. I think personality is incredibly important as far as art in general is concerned. We need more personalities out there as opposed to people who just kind of copy the trends, wherever the trends may be going. Personality very important because it's the personality that people often buy into as well. So who are you as a person, and kind of make use of that as well. So if you're a happy extroverted person, that needs to play a role in your photography. If you're more like us, the introverts, I think that also needs to play a part in your style going forward. I'm not saying it's a bad thing whatsoever. The technical, very introspective, very how to put it, precise way of going about things, that's useful going forward.
Yeah, there's a place for everything. So you don't have to be this outwardly bubbly stage personality. You can be the more introverted person, but you need to go out there and meet people. I don't run any Facebook ads at all, and look at me,
All right, so I think that's the end of our interview. Let's see if I missed any comments. Doesn't seem so.
I think you missed the question. I think there was a question about me doing YouTube for some reason.
All right. Okay. Well, let's see. Okay. Yes. True. Okay. Let's have a pop the first question then. What inspired you to start a YouTube channel about photography, and how has it evolved over time?
Yeah. The reason I only remembered that is because I thought about it quite a bit. So I wanted to be.
It's crackling outside again. There you go.
So when I started, I wanted to, there's a photographer, Brendan Van Stunt. He's a YouTuber as well. He does a lot of travel photography and stuff like that. And he inspired me a lot. And any photographer that's an introvert wants to shoot nature, wildlife, and landscapes.
Bugs and pets probably as well.
Yeah, anything that doesn't talk to you.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I wanted to do that. Ironically, I shoot more people now than anything else. And he was looking for an intern at the time. But the catch was you need to be able to be comfortable speaking on camera and stuff like that. So you needed to film yourself. Which I did. And I realized I wasn't comfortable in front of the camera. But I realized that was a problem. And I realized that's something I needed to learn. So I still have my initial one video on my channel, which is absolutely awful. It's absolutely awful. But it is. It shows me where I came from. It's okay to suck at something. So it shows me where I came from. So I don't want to remove that ever, even though it's not worth watching whatsoever. Other than it's just something for me, and that kind of took me into YouTube. That thing when I filmed myself speaking and to him, introducing myself on a YouTube video to be on YouTube. I was like, cool, maybe this opportunity will come by again, but I need to be ready. So I got into YouTube for that. And I found it to become therapy for me being an introvert. I found it to become a bit of therapy because I'm putting myself out there the whole time in front of the world, willing to get judged, which the world does more than anything else.
The YouTube comments.
And I was like, I'm putting myself out there. And I found it became therapy because I started feeling more confident and I started listening to hate comments so much less. And I started not worrying what people think, and I started worrying about what I need to do, just not worrying about other people's thing. So that's why I continued, actually. And because it's the same thing with lives, it became a thing of I'm putting myself out there in front of people for me to be judged. And I started getting comfortable with that. And I want to be comfortable with that because I am a bit self-conscious. And so... And the way it's just grown. I found I started trying to find my feet so many times. You watch YouTubers and you kind of try to draw inspiration from everybody. And I tried the cinematic routes and stuff like that, like Peter McKinnon. And I didn't have the technical expertise in the time anyway to do that. But I tried that style. I wanted to be a gear reviewer, but that was very unfeasible because I don't get free equipment. Well, I do, but not enough for me to make consistent videos on. And I stumbled upon this new genre of style that I have, and it's been in my last couple of videos, is I wanted to take I want to take photographers on an actual unfiltered, unmotivated, and no bullshit behind the scenes experience of an actual photo shoot. I don't want to create something that is eye candy. I want to show you the setup. I want to show you, it's boring to watch. Like it's one angle that flips around every now and then to a different spot, but it's real. I wanted to make it as real as possible, because I found photographers that do that, and I found as a person that wants to learn how to take a good photo, if things are moving around, I can't always get a handle on it. But like if I look at who's somebody putting up the setup, this is a literal behind the scenes. So that's how it's evolved over time. I wanted to create a very educational system for people to come to that is not hidden by crazy camera tricks. I do try and make it as interesting as possible by maybe creating a little bit of, without knowing any better word to describe it, a bit of a cinematic sequence in between it. But a lot of the time, just good music and static camera angles, and maybe a handheld camera and a on the top of my camera GoPro type of vibe. And that's about it. Just so that you can see what I'm seeing down the lens. What you're seeing is the environment, and maybe it's something a little bit more personal. You get to meet the people involved. You get to see me actually doing the photos, and you get to see the model close up posing as well. And yeah,
that's an interesting topic that you uncovered there, the idea of getting out of your familiar, comfortable spaces. It's a challenge to all, in their own respects. From our point of view, the introverts, getting ourselves out there in front of the camera, speaking to people, it's a necessary step, but it's helpful, as scary as it may sound. Getting outside of that familiar space into that chaos, learn new things about yourself, and all of these new things are just incredibly useful for your journey forward. So that's quite inspirational. It's quite interesting how the two of us are in the same boat, or in terms of being introverted and whatnot. But yeah, doing what we are doing and still soldiering on. Little things that we learn and getting outside of those safe spaces in a matter of
exactly. And you'll find when you do that, there's a lot of people. You're on the same boat. You're not alone on a boat, and everybody feels they're alone because they're not looking inward to the boat at everybody else. And you'll be able to help each other, and you'll be able to learn from each other. I mean, I get really wonderful comments as well on YouTube about people, and like on here about people saying how I've done something for them, and that's all from somebody inspiring me, or somebody like enabling me to attempt to do it. And oddly enough, that photographer Brendan, he gave me a camera. He gave me my first ever full frame camera, and here it is. I still have it.
Nice.
It's worn to crap. It's completely. It doesn't have the top, so you can't even tell what mode you're in anymore. And this, I started my photographic career. Well, I started on a 70, but I started making money on this. That's in this shape, and that was somebody.
Yeah, it's a trophy now, is it not?
It is. It is a trophy. It was his first camera. He bought it when he started for like his YouTube channel. So that's why I'm quite fond of it. He bought it. This was his first camera that he started his literal photography career on. And he was in Cape Town, and he just wanted to say like, cool, I don't want to sell it, I want to give it away to somebody. First person that says yes, they'll take it. And it was me.
All right. So just the crackling again. So as you solve the crackling, I think that's a very good thing. I sense that in you, that you want to pass that on to other people as well. So the help that you got, the mentoring that you got, it's as you receive, you need to give out as well. Now sense that in our interview tonight, you have a great desire to get the knowledge out there, as you have received help in the past, receiving the camera. Now it's your turn to pass the mantle, and big ups on you. And I think a lot of people can be inspired to do the same as well. As you mentioned, the camera, I've got my trophy here as well. Little Pentax K5. That was
nice.
my introduction into photography. It's not even this camera. I remember using a camera that it couldn't use any memory cards above 1 gigabyte. and you couldn't do ISO 200 and above because the noise was horrendous. And it didn't use a lithium-ion battery pack. It used 4 AA batteries. And I did weddings with that thing.
Yeah. And that's what's fun. That's so ironic about the gear chase at the moment is like, if you look back at what people did, and now, you know, it's like we're all like, oh no, I can't take a photo with this piece of shit. And it was like, dude, that thing is better than the best was back then.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point.
But yeah, and I think also a photography, I mean, like the giving back aspect and stuff like that is from, and I'm not sure how many people can relate, but I'm sure a lot of people, is like the community is very closed off as photographers. The pros don't help anybody below it. It took me a while to understand why, but that was the first indication of help. And I wasn't help in the sense of like somebody didn't open the door for me and say, cool, join me and stuff like that. That was a eye-opening moment of reality of learning how to help myself, you know? And I fumbled my way to all my knowledge. I bought so much gear. So that's also what I teach people, so they don't buy as much crap as I have, because I've got cupboards full of stuff I don't use. I do, but I had to learn. And that's why I want to
a graveyard of things. I have the same problem here as well.
Exactly, because nobody wanted to teach me how to do it. I learned I had to learn myself. And it's very lonely, but I do understand. It's all, you know, I do understand why it is now. It took me a while to get to that point of understanding why pros don't help. But I do want to be able to give back as much as I can. But that also being said, I need the community or the people I'm helping to be able to enable me to do so. You know what I mean? And that's similar to what you guys do on YouTube. That's by liking, you know, subscribing, following, sharing, you know, just giving the platform something to stand on. That type of thing, you know.
Yeah, so I think that ended up, you know, being quite a heartfelt discussion at the end. Yeah, very lovely talking about, and I hope to see more of it. And I think a lot of people, myself, were inspired by this interview. So I thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
This was a great chat.
Yeah, I had so much fun.
To round it off, we have Jay Roman saying, "What a beautiful interview." This year, my goal is to get more knowledge on how to have a well-oiled business. Thank you. You guys rock. Conrad, you're a great host. Thank you for saying that. Michael, thank you for sharing your talent with us.
Oh, thanks so much. That's beautiful. I love that.
And also Dave, who has been very involved. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Conrad. Okay, so I think that's going to be us rounding things off. And again, thank you, Michael, for joining.
That's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Have joined us halfway through or at the end, don't worry, this is going to be on YouTube forever, so you can catch up. So on YouTube, Facebook, or on Twitch now as well. So if you want to catch up, just catch us on YouTube. So I think that's going to be us signing off. So thank you, Michael. Thank you for everybody watching. So that's going to be a good night from us.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Perfect. Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. All right, so that's going to be us signing off and ending broadcast now.